Hey y'all. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Orange Bloods Texas YouTube channel. Today we have a very special guest, my former coach, the head coach of the men's and women's track and field team at Texas, Coach Edrick Floreal. Hey Flo.
Hello, Stacks. How you doing?
I'm doing good. When I first got hired to Orange Bloods, they were like, "Who's Stacks?" I
Yeah.
see that Coach Flo always called you Stacks. You're bringing like the nickname into my workplace. I'm Serenity here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Serenity Douglas.
Okay, coach. Well, for starters, congratulations on your first men's NCAA team title. Also, Texas's first indoor team title, everything, honestly. You pretty much made history. And then followed it up with the women's. They were runner up at the NCAA team title. The Big 12 championships were obviously not enough for you. You needed to do NCAA too.
That's
So I
that's
really
right.
want you, I really want you to take me through the beginning. Day one. I know you have the meetings. I know you do all that, but take me through it.
Day one of Big 12 or NCAAs?
NCs.
Day one NCAAs. Let me go back. Actually, day one was Wednesday. So we got there a little early, 2 days early. Wednesday was basically a lazy day. Went to the track, didn't do a whole lot. Just actually take it back. John Jones and Brooks did their pre-meet that day. And the rest of the team just basically just warmed up and spent some time with Clint, loosening up and doing some mobility stuff. There was much not happening. No team meeting, nothing. They had dinner on their own, so they just kind of relaxed. Day two was the regular day two that you're aware of. That's the pre-meet, get up in the morning. They had pre-meet, they had breakfast. Pre-meet was relatively early. So they had the rest of the day to themselves. And we had team meeting, talked about, winning a championship and everybody positioning themselves in the prelims to make the final. So nobody talks about score unless you're in a specific final. You don't talk about the score. You're just focused on making the exact final. Nothing else really mattered. Um, that day actually went pretty well, other than Christine had a bad day in the high jump, which kind of escalated to the bad day in the shot put and escalated to a bad day overall. And that got things started a little bit behind. And then Tyra followed up with terrible day in the long jump. So, but the rest of the women all advanced in the finals, which we had a really good day overall, other than maybe Corona Davis didn't make it. That was really the only other fumble
Yeah.
outside of, Tyra and Christine that we had on day one. So overall, pretty good day one, even though Tyra probably should have got 10 points. So you're looking at, we were about 15 points in the hole after day one, but we had
Mm.
about 15 potential points and people advancing to the finals that we could make up. Um,
Now, while you guys had that 15 deficit, you guys also day one had like a 10 point, I want to say it was a wild card with the men's DMR.
yeah, so that's the women's side. But on the men's side, um, Leo had about as good as a day as he could. I mean, he
Yeah.
PR. Whenever you PR at the NCAA, there's not much else you can do better. So there was really nothing to be disappointed there. We thought he could get second, and thought he had a chance to win at here and there. But hey, no one's ran an unbelievable 1,000, and I mean
Mhm.
that guy was. I mean, I think it was 5 more meters he would have not made it. I mean, he gave everything he got and pulled it off, and the young man from Georgia also did a great job. So overall, that's 6 points. It is what it is. You do PR, you do your best. Not much we can ask for that. And the DMR was sort of in limbo because I thought Stacy Brown should have scored because it only took 24 feet to score in the long jump. But he just had lots of issues just trying to keep his approach together, try to keep himself together, and ended up resulting in no points in the long jump. That, I mean, 24 feet score that he should have for sure scored.
Yeah.
Um, so ensuing to that, the DMR sort of made it up and left on a high note, which means the guys were going to come back the next day excited for an opportunity to win. But still, AT&T was looming. Georgia was still having their regular Georgia day, and Matt Bowling made it in everything. He did lost some points in the long jump, so we thought, okay, it's just still a dogfight. On the day, and the evening in team meeting, we did some calculation and thought we could potentially win by 3 points if we have a bunch of stuff happening. And if they have a bunch of stuff happening as well, even if they had a good day and we had a good day, we could still do it. And then obviously we had a really good day. John and Busy took care of business. Let me see what else. 800 took care of business. We thought we could get 10 points. We got 13. So it was sort of an ebbs and flow. They got in the lead. We got in the lead. We got in a really good roll and thought the meet was over really for us after the 8. We thought the meet is over. We're going to win this. And then North Carolina A&T comes out with some insane hurdlers that go second and fifth. And it's like, here we go again. And their 200-meter guy, we're thinking Matthew Bowling was going to win. He does, then he gets DQ'd. They get 15 points. And all of a sudden, we're thinking we're going to be up by 11 points before the 4x4, which means the meet is mathematically impossible for them to win. We're only up by 3. They got a better 4x4 than us by a second and a half. No chance to win this 4x4, but it was.
We had Trip.
Yes, and Trip. We thought Trip could win the shot put, but the guy that was number 1 gets 3 fouls. So I'm thinking, well, that guy fouls out. Trip got this, and then the guy from Arizona State comes out of nowhere and he wins. So it's almost like, golly, we just cannot get a complete break. We thought Creighton could get 4 points, and he gets 2. So we lost 2 points from Creighton. We lost 2 points from Trip. So that's 4 points down. And then the 800 makes up all those points in a nutshell. And all of a sudden, we're back in the roll. And I think he was down to the 4x4, but the schedule was so tight that people were so tired. I don't think many people paid attention to how tight the schedule was. So we could have doubled some people, and we decided not to take that gamble and just paid off. But everybody else doubled and tripled. I mean, I saw Randolph Ross laying in a Normatec boot for what seemed to be forever. So the toll was taken, and their guys after the 200 ran their hearts out, but they just couldn't get themselves back together for the 4x4. Good thing for us, we had 3 fresh legs, and John Jones can basically do anything. So he came back, and our fresh legs, John Moss, Wellington, and Brian were all fresh. And we just put all our money out front and said, we just got to get away from Randolph Rupp as much as you can, because if he's close, then have really thinking that there's not much we can do with a guy that's running 44 seconds. So everybody that did their job, even John Moss, he knew he had to not give the lead up, bring the baton in the lead. Everybody did that. John Jones had to give the baton in the lead. So overall, they executed. They gave Brian the big lead, and all Brian had to do is just run as hard as you can in the early. Just discourage Randolph to come after you, because if you go out slow, he's going to come and get you. And he did exactly that. The last 100 was a little tough on him, but when you're 30 meters in the lead, you can sort of just die a little bit and still make it.
And now, through all of that, I'm in the stands too, Coach. Yes. I'm stressed. The only stressed fan that was up there, because nobody was really like paying attention to it numbers wise like you or somebody who knows the sport. And I just really want to know, how are you able to just remain calm when those things were like going up and down, even coming off of the win for the DMR, which I said was the wild card, honestly. Coming off of the win for the DMR, you knew that you guys were really in the running. You're talking to Coach Rick, like, this is possible, as long as everyone shows up, nobody pulls up or nobody falls. Like, that can happen. Anything can happen. You saw that Matthew Bowling made it in however many events and wasn't able to pull through in those. So, anything is able to happen at nationals. So how are you able to just remain just zen throughout all of it?
Well, all the athletes are feeding off of what my emotions or my demeanor is. So it's almost like if you don't have a poker face as a head coach, then everybody else sort of begin to panic. Or even after the Trip didn't win the shot, but hey man, I'm sorry. It's like, sorry for what? We got 8 points. It's a positive. So I think ideally is that you try to sort of keep the team calm and focused and excited. And when the team is down, you got to get excited. When the team is too excited, you got to bring them back down. So it sort of feeds off your energy. So you have to sort of look at the temperature of the group and figure out, hey, I need to back away to kind of get him to calm down, or I need to get him excited, what's so forth, so on. So I think ideally you sort of have, I guess, a thermometer. You're just controlling more than just the effort, but just the temperature and then the excitement, and trying to get the guys not too excited before the 4x4, because you didn't want to go out there and do some crazy, have Wellington take off in 19 seconds and can't finish. So it was important that everybody, like I kept everybody away from the 4x4. So it was just me in the 4x4 because it was important that not too many people, hey, we got this, go, 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 because all of a sudden that adds pressure. So they basically stayed in a little area warm up just with me, just keeping them, hey, everybody know what their job is. John Moss, you're gonna get the baton in the lead, no matter what you do. Don't let it slow down and keep the gap. The same gap you get, give the same gap back. Reminding John Jones that he had to give John Moss the lead. Reminding Willington that he can't be third or fourth coming off the turn. He had to be in the lead. So reminding everybody of what their job is. Brian, when you get the baton, take off like a bat out of hell. You're going to be in the lead. Just discourage them to come. So all these things you got to constantly reiterate, because as the warm up gets longer and longer, the kids started getting more and more nervous. I remember John Jones saying, "I'm nervous as hell." And I was like, "Well, that's a good thing. At least that means you care. Because if you're not nervous, that means you don't have no chance to win." And he's like, "Oh, didn't think about it that way." So you're constantly just try to stop people from messing up by having a negative mindset. So you're almost like guarding the door with a shotgun, making sure that the negative mindset does not get into the athlete's mind. And that's what the job is when you're the head coach is like, or even the assistant, they was looking at me like, what's happening? It's like, just everybody come down. We got this. We just got to basically make this and that and that and this happen.
Right. In that moment, take me through the moment when you guys realized, because y'all were celebrating during the 4x4. Mm-hmm. And I was celebrating too, and everybody was kind of looking at me like, Texas did not just win this 4x4, but ultimately that means that you guys won the team score. So take me through that.
Sure. So the whole 4x4 is really stressed out because first leg went well, but we were still too close to them. It's like if we give the baton to Brian with a 3-meter lead, they're going to beat us. And well, going back, we didn't have to win the 4x4. But we had to be very close to A&T because there was a 3-point gap. So if they get 5th and we get 6, we still win. If they get 5th and we get 8, then we lose. So the whole thing was a 3-point spread. So whatever happened, if we can just be at the finish line neck to neck with them, we're probably going to win anyway. So it was just a matter of they can't win the 4x4 and we get 5th. If that happens, we're lost. So all the guys knew that if we can cross the finish line before North Carolina A&T, the meet is over. So we really didn't care about winning the 4x4. It was just a matter of we're trying to win the first national championship. And all that really mattered here is don't be a hero. Don't try to win the 4x4. Just beat North Carolina A&T. If you can beat them, or not even beat them, be very close. If we outlean them or they outlean us, they'll be close enough from a gap where we can go out there and win. So that was the only task. So the whole team knew this. So because the whole team knew this, everybody on the sideline knew that we got to be close to them. If we can beat them, it's over. So with maybe 100 to go, Randolph is coming 100 miles an hour, and I'm thinking, oh my God, here we go. And then Brian, on the corner of his eye, you can tell he's looking back like, uh-oh, I can hear the crowd. And I figured he's coming. And I know I got to get close to him. So I'm going to keep pushing. And then I guess A&M passed, and he's like, okay, that's the right color. We don't really care about whether A&M beats us, and as long as it's not A&T that passes me. Right. And with about 50, when he got in the straightaway, and it was about 15 meters or 12 meters ahead, we figured, ain't no way he can make 12 meters in 50 meters. And right about halfway to the straightaway, that's when I knew that it's over. And barring that, even if he tripped and fall forward, we were going to win. So about 20 meters away, that's when I started celebrating. The whole team went crazy. So we knew at that point that Brian had beaten A&T and we had won the championship.
Tell me how that feels, Coach Flo. Because you kept on the poker face, like you said, throughout the whole meet. And you were finally able to just feel those feelings.
Exhale. You're thinking about the championship, you're thinking about winning it, but you're also thinking about losing it. You're thinking about, Bubba Thornton, Stan Huntsman, all the people that came before you that did the same thing and came up short. So when the meet started going sideways, you start thinking, man, I'm just going to be the next guy in line to just come short. Because you start putting a scenario in your mind that, here comes A&T, and they got a great 4x4. It's just really not going to happen. And then you sort of have to snap out of it like, wait a minute, stop. We're not going to go down that road because the guys were looking at me like, oh man, we're going to lose. It's like, stop. We still have a fighting chance here. There's still a 4x4 going. Because you have to sort of brace yourself for what you're going to say to the team if you come short. Because that's also a speech you got to deliver whether you win or lose. So in my mind, I'm like, my goodness, here we go. And then I had to realize that, wait a minute, I'm not doing that to myself because, you're so used to coming up close because so many people come close before that maybe that's our fate. We're gonna come close too. And I think at one point I caught myself like, you know what? I'm not even doing that. We're going to win this 4x4. We're going to go out and win the championship and move on. And I had to sort of look at these guys in the eyes and convince them that I'm convinced we're going to win this. And this is how we're going to win it. So you give them the strategy on how we're going to do it. So then this way they can feel like, okay, he's talking as if it's a done deal. Like we can do this, as opposed to saying, well, we did our best and we just tried. I wasn't going to give him that speech. The speech was, you want to live forever? You want to be heroes? This is the moment. And it's really going to be a live forever. As long as Texas exists, you're the first to win the championship and your names will be live forever. It doesn't matter if we win 50 more. Nonetheless, you're the first team that broke the ice. I mean, think about 80, 90 years of Texas history and never, ever, ever, ever a team won a 4x4, won an NCAA championship. And I think the good thing was when President Hartzell texted me, and he was saying, I forgot his text, said something to the effect that either it's really hard to win a championship or we're not very good. And I know it's not very good because our history is so bright. So it must be really hard to win a national championship in track and field. This must be why, because I look at our history, I look at all the medalists and all the Krausers and all the superstars, Kilmart and Hardys we've had. The fact that we haven't won means it must be difficult. And I'll text him back, it's like, it is hard as hell because there's so many things that have to go right and so many things have to not go wrong, which is saying the same thing. You know, Bubba Thornton really had the team to win. Stan Huntsman had some chance to win, but Bubba had probably the best chances. You know, Trey gets hurt, a half miler gets DQ'd, a miler falls at the finish line. I mean, we're talking about 5 yards away, he falls and doesn't get up. So like, how can that happen? And you right. 6 points in a span of an hour and a half, and it's like, wait a minute. You know, Trey Hardy's ahead by 600 points with 2 events to go. He wins the hurdles by a mile, leans at the finish line, twists his ankle, almost breaks his ankle. So these things have to not happen. Or even Leo runs the 60 hurdles, and I'm nervous because I'm thinking, God, that damn hurdle, I hate that event. He hits the first hurdle, almost come to a complete stop, and you're thinking, here we go, this is it. And survives somehow the nut to falling and finishes the race. No, okay, we survived one. So it's almost like you get these bad luck things, you have to survive them, you know, or Yassim has a bump with a guy with 400 to go. There's a yellow goes, and it's like, oh my God, we just lost 10 points. And officials debate, it was incidental bump, they don't DQ him. But they could have easily decided to DQ him. And at that point, meet is over. So really, the same bad luck stuff that Bubba and Stan and other coaches have had, Coach Blackwood, we've had them, we just survive them. So really, you have to sort of have a bit of luck. And the bad things, like Trey Hardy leans a little bit earlier and doesn't trip, well, Bubba wins. He's the first one to ever do. So the miler is in the inside lane. If he takes 1 step off the turn and jump back in, he's fine. But he took 2 steps. So a lot of these things are happening, and you sort of have to have some luck even to survive your own, you know, stupidity or bad luckness. And on the women's side, we just didn't survive them. You know, Tyra is jumping great, but she can't hit the board. She hits the board, she wins, and all of a sudden it's the meet. You know, Christine hits the bar, it wobble, and fall. You wobble, yeah. We're good. So you're looking at all these things happen, you know, or Achilles jumping out of her mind, but she can't finish the end of the lane. She's just standing straight up, and she loses about 1.5 feet per jump. You're saying, and so in the championship, can you survive your own bad luck or your own stupidity? If you can, or you get the points anywhere and you win. We just happen to overcome all of that. And, you know, so telling the guy from ESPN, you have to lose often and be embarrassed. So you may at some point you don't even care. You're so used to not winning that doesn't scare you anymore. It's like not winning, I don't think scared the guys. Like they wanted to win more than they wanted to lose. And nobody was afraid that if we don't, we're going to get back and do it again. That's the mindset, is like, we're going to win this thing. If not today, we're going to win it outdoors. So with that mindset, we just sort of force our luck to be positive.
Yeah. And like you said, it was just a series of unfortunate events is definitely possible. You know, I definitely saw it with other teams at the meet. But you even said during the press conference, before y'all left to go down to Birmingham, it was, a lot of people think that it's easy to win multiple or a lot of people think that it's a lot more harder to win multiple team titles, but you think that it's harder to win one. The first one, the very first one, and you're sitting in a press conference with Mike Holloway, who has won multiple. Mm-hmm. And just take me through what you meant by that, because it's true.
It is that, like, the problem with the first one is, if it's the first one, that means you haven't done it before. That means you've come short many times. And when you come short so many times, you sort of prepare yourself to come short again, because that's your fate. We're going to come short again. This is what happens in Texas. We always come short. So you sort of buy into that mindset that it's just not meant to be for you. But once you win, you're sort of free, because you know how to win. And if you don't win again, you've already won. So the fear of losing sort of dissipates. It just goes away. And because we've not won for so many years, we will all sort of prepare ourselves that if it doesn't happen again, we're just snake bitten. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So once a team wins, that team can never win again, but that team has won once, and that team is sort of free from the burden of being, like Marlene Arty was probably one of the greatest sprinters ever, but she could never win the Olympic gold or World Championship gold. It's called her the Bronze Queen. Something happened to her at those major championships, and in the following meet, she'd run 1070 something. So, yeah. Sometime you do that a few times, or even better, Kenny Harrison. It's like
I was just gonna say that you have to break the curse a little bit.
That's right. Most people never get to the breakthrough because they get like so prepared to be disappointed. You're like, so there's no point in me kicking myself in the shin. I'm just going to prepare myself that it's going to go bad. And I think for a certain time, Kenny expected it to go bad because it's always going bad. And eventually you have to say, no, not today. I'm just not today. Not going to happen today. And once you get past that moment where you push yourself beyond your own stupidity, your own shortcomings, then you're sort of free to know that, well, I can do this. And once you get past that, that's why I think the greatest thing for our team is yet to come, because now that they've actually finally broken their ice, it's like, whew, okay, it's over. We finally did it. Now we can sort of be our very best self. And I think that's the difficulty with have never won. I mean, you've never felt what it feels like to be a national champion. So the excitement you saw is that it wasn't so much we won. It was like, thank God, this is over. Like the whole battle, the whole internal fight with your soul, trying to figure out if you're capable, if you're good enough, if you're deserving enough, if God favors you enough. It's like, finally. So for me, it was more like an exhale, like, now let's get to the business of really being the Texas we envisioned to be. Because now we know that we can sort of move on past that sort of, there's a line you have to cross. And the great teams do it. I bet you Mike Holloway probably fought like hell to finally win his first one. And it takes years to win the first one. And some people have never won it, and some people, once you win it once, you know how to do it again. And you know that you can have a couple of bad events and still, that's why I'm excited for the women. You had a couple of bad events and still got second. So it's like, okay, this is the worst. I'm embarrassed, I'm whatever, but that's the worst I can feel. Well, that's not so bad. But then again, you watch the guys celebrate, it's like, well, I think I want to feel like that better. So I think for us, it's just a matter of accepting the fact that it's not all going to go your way. And when it doesn't go your way, don't get discouraged and quit. This is part of the game. And I think the guys now know we can have some bad events and still win. And when a team has never won before, once they get a couple of bad events, right away you recoil, this is it, this is over. It's not meant to be. So that's the difference between somebody who's done it or not. They don't get discouraged or disparaged by having a couple of bad things happen. They know that things can bounce back. A&T was perfect. They were doing bad, and then all of a sudden they got the upswing. We were doing good. We got the downswing. So there's ebbs and flows throughout the meet, and it's whoever keeps so cool and doesn't get discouraged during that down part that can go out there and survive.